Hey everyone, Julian here today. I'm going to be showing you how to make glitchy, acid breakbeat music in the style of Aphex Twin. As usual, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything that you just heard in the intro of the video is available at the top of the description on my website. Definitely go grab that. It's a really great way to support me and make the best music of your life today. I promise if you grab this template, you're going to be making better tracks immediately. Go ahead and grab that. Link is at the top of the description. Thanks for the support, guys. And let's dive in. Alright, so we're at 143 BPM and we're going to start with the breakbeat. So where this all starts, when I'm making one of these, and I think in general when you're making this style, you want to start with just one breakbeat layer and get that to be kind of like the beat and also most of the glitches. So this is where I started. I used this breakbeat, so you can hear it, you know, it already had the beat in there, it already had everything. It's just a matter of taking that and kind of chopping it a little. But you can see it's still following mostly like what you heard. Right? It's really like taking notes out mostly. I mean, even over here. You know, there's whole bars like that where it's just like a few hits, right? But it's really just taking that rhythm that's already happening in the breakbeat and just chopping it a bit and then adding the glitches, like stuff like this, like taking this little thing and just, you know, but then taking the volumes of these two down a little bit. Like that. Or like over here, like having a snare and then just immediately just duplicating it and reversing. So it goes, you know, all of those little things. Or even just reversing the snare completely there. You know, taking kicks and doing these little like 30-second note things. And really just using your ear to do this. And I think less is more. I think having like less notes and more space really does create more glitch, ironically enough, because it's like in this bar, for example. Like that's only a few little hits for the whole bar. But it really allows you to hear what's happening. It allows you to hear and process to yourself like, okay, there's that crazy reverse snare. There's the 30-second notes. There's a kick that just seemingly hits out of nowhere. It's like, if you just fill this up with hits, like if you just take this and just like... See, you don't even notice as much the cool stuff that's happening. So you want to keep that in mind. So you're going to start with that layer. Get a breakbeat, chop it up, and get all the glitches going. And maybe do like 4 or 8 bars, right? And once you have that, then you move down and I did the kick and the snare. And you can hear that fills in the space of it. It also helps create groove. So we've got just like a fat 909 kick and then this like breakbeat snare. So it's doing that pattern, and then what's happening is it just fits really well under what's already happening there. So again, that's why you want to start with the breakbeat. You get that breakbeat, get the main groove going, and then you can add these in. Just to kind of fill that in and give it a bit more punch. And like little things, you know, like having that. And you can see it's no processing, even on the breakbeat and the kick and the snare, is no processing needed. It's really more happening just through the audio and what's happening. So once you have those, then I added in these hi-hats. Which is just like these 4 little hi-hats in a drum rack. If you listen to it with the kick and the snare. This is something I noticed with a lot of the Aphex Twin tracks like this, is it'll be the breakbeat, and that's kind of like the main percussion, but then these hi-hats over top just give it a little bit more flow. And make it just groove even better. Almost like in the background, right? And once you have those layers, the main breakbeat, the hi-hats, and the kick and the snare, it's extremely close, but that's where these layers come in. Right? It's all these little breakbeats and taking tiny chops from them and just doing little like cuts, you know, like stuff like that. That's just gonna sit really well under that main breakbeat. I can hear it just fills it in the last little bit, just taking these chunks from breakbeats and adding in the texture and everything that's happening there. Again, no processing, it's just what's already happening in the breakbeats. Filling in some of those open spaces, and when you put it all together, you get that insane kind of very flowing groove, right? And then on the group, there is a bit of processing to kind of tie it all together and make it sound like one break. So it's just the saturator. Here's without it. With it. And you can hear without this, it's not quite as glued together. Like, it doesn't sound as much like one whole break. You can hear all the individual layers, but when you add this, it really just makes it all feel kind of more cohesive because it's all going under the same umbrella, so to speak. So what's happening here is we're using the saturator. It's on the medium curve setting. So already, like you see, if I switch it back to analog clip, even just setting it to medium curve kind of makes it a bit more saturated and heavier. And then I have the drive up pretty high, honestly. But the secret is that we're blending this. We're not just making it completely wet. Because if you make it completely wet, it's a bit too crunchy. I think a big part of this is like, even though it's meant to be glitchy and crazy, it still needs to be very clean and coherent while having texture. It's not just like losing it to the texture. It's still like letting enough come through. Right, so we've got that. The next thing we have here is this pad. So this is a simple pad. It's not quite following any particular key, because like if you look, you could kind of say it's A sharp minor, right? Like we're doing root note, fifth, minor third. But then there's that B there, which is not really in that A sharp minor scale, right? So it's like, you know, it's using notes that are like, I think that's the beauty of Aphex Twin with these kinds of pads, is like, you know, he knows how to like follow a key enough that it doesn't just sound like random notes, but then it'll be that one note that he'll throw in to kind of break the key, so it still feels a bit more like kind of not crazy all over the place. It's like he's a master of like the right amount of crazy and the right amount of breaking the key and breaking theory without just completely just random notes, right? So we got that, and this just kind of sits over the 303. Contrasting it and giving it like a nice kind of counterpoint. For the sound on this, it's pretty simple. It's this like kind of digital FM sounding pad where we're using operator. It's a sine wave with this like shorter envelope, so it kind of like goes down. And then this sine wave here, and then another one up here. So you can see this one's up pretty high, so that's where you're getting that like high overtone. Like if I bring that down, see it goes like that, and then you bring that up, and you get the high overtone with the low note still. The low pass filter is set like that. And then we have a tiny bit of redux. You can see brings out the like crunchiness a little bit in the highs. We have some delay. I didn't really want to use reverb on this. I think it sounds better without reverb. It's closer to that like original kind of Aphex style. And then we have a pretty heavy high pass filter with this EQ8 just cutting out a lot because I really didn't want this to be too in your face. You need this to just really be in the background, and then it'll let the breakbeat and the 303 shine. And then we have the 303. So what's happening here is we have this pattern. I'll turn off the MIDI effects so you hear what's happening. So it's this crazy busy 303 pattern. I made it to kind of go off of what the breakbeat's doing. See, it has that like stop-start dynamic, just like the breakbeat does, where you're giving it a crazy chunk of notes and then space, and then another crazy chunk of notes and then space, and it's like all that. Because if you just rapid fire, just all over the place, you know, you have to give them a moment to take in what they just heard. This is just as much about the notes that you are playing here as it is the notes that you aren't playing. And what's happening is we have all those notes, and then I also have here this note length MIDI effect and this random. So what the note length is doing is this is like a MIDI effect that can actually set so that every note length is the same. But then what I'm doing is, if you notice, I have it set like this, and then the length, see how it's moving around? So we have an LFO over here, a random LFO mapped to that. This is why I love Ableton 11, because you can just do this. So it's an LFO on the note length, and then what happens is you get all these random... See how it kind of makes the 303 a bit more unpredictable and crazier? Like, you'll get that one crazy long note and that one note that's like randomly short and everything in between. So it's a really great way to just bring some of that life and that craziness into this without having to like actually sit there and try to do it by hand, but just have it kind of happen and then play around with what comes from that. So we've got that, and then after that I have this random note device. Which is like not that much. The chance is only at 16%. But then by having this and having it on random mode and the choices are at 7, you get just a few random notes thrown in there that break the key, and some are in key, but it's like it'll jump up and down the scale. It's actually very nice. And it just adds that extra element of unpredictability into it and makes it less rigid and feel more like that classic glitchy, insane sort of Aphex style. And it's just using the Ableton MIDI devices to kind of bring it to life. So for the actual 303 sound here, I did something that I noticed when I heard a lot of his tracks, which is 2 303 layers. A lot of times the 303 is meant to be like a one oscillator sort of sound, right? But when you take it and when you add this, so you take this analog layer, which sounds like this. It's just a saw wave with a low pass filter with an LFO, key tracking and an envelope and a high resonance. We got that. Plus there's key tracking on the resonance. And then mix it with this one, which is made with operator. It's a saw wave and a low pass filter and a bit of an envelope. Honestly, the same stuff. Key tracking, envelope, and an LFO on the filter. So just lots of movement. And when you add those two layers together that are slightly different, it gives you that crazy layered 303 that you hear in a lot of the Aphex Twin tracks. And I think he really like explored that, like just taking this to the next level and not just using the same kind of 303 sounds, but like just adding those little things like the layers to kind of make it unique and also make it really full. If you listen, this really fills out the track. You know, you're only hearing 3 things: the breakbeat, the pad, and then this, but this fills up so much space because it is so full. Then we have an EQ. Here's without it, and then with it. So just cleans out a bit of mud in the low mids and stuff that would get a bit too muddy. Plus we're boosting the mids and kind of like the mid highs. Then we have this echo. Here's without it. You can see what's happening is it's a really fast delay time, and then we have it on ping pong, so you're getting this like great stereo image from this. And that's a really good trick. You can use ping pong delay to just create like a stereo effect if you just make it really fast. Like it's literally 6 milliseconds, so you don't really hear a delay. You just hear that like stereo spread. And then the key is not using too much, because if you do too much, it loses fullness. But just a little bit as a layer like that with the dry wet is all you need. We have the LFO, which I already showed you, and then we have this overdrive at the end. Here's without it. And then with it, you can see it's just nice full body distortion on the 303 to fill it out and make it really fit in with everything and just make it more powerful. And yeah, so that's gonna be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, everything from this video is available at the top of the description on my website. Definitely go grab this. This is one of the best Aphex templates I've seen on the market that actually gets it right. If you want to make these kind of tracks, this is really gonna help you get where you're trying to get immediately and save you a lot of struggle. I put a lot of time into studying for this video so that I could really make you guys something authentic and better than anything else out there. Thank you so much for the support, everybody. Link is at the top of the description. Enjoy the template, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.